This is a story about a murderer who hated to shower. He openly rejected cleanliness, mocked hygiene, and claimed filth was his rebellion against society. But behind the stench, the satanic imagery, and the unsettling persona was something far more dangerous than just shock value. Pazuzu Algarad was not just an outsider trying to offend people. He was a manipulator who turned his home into a magnet for vulnerable individuals, using chaos, fear, and control to create an environment where murder could happen without immediate consequence. Before he was known as Pazuzu Algarad, his real name was John Alexander Lawson. Born in 1978, he showed signs of serious behavioral and psychological problems early in life. People who knew him described him as aggressive, unstable, and deeply antisocial. As he grew older, his fascination with darkness, death, and anti-authority ideology intensified. Eventually, he legally changed his name to Pazuzu Algarad, adopting the identity of an ancient demon associated with destruction and disease. This wasn't a phase or a persona for attention. It became the core of who he was. Pazuzu openly embraced Satanism and anarchism, rejecting basic societal norms. He deliberately refused to bathe, claiming that cleanliness represented submission to authority. Over time, his appearance became more extreme. He filed his teeth into sharp points, covered his body in disturbing tattoos, and decorated his surroundings with satanic symbols. He spoke openly about his hatred for society and authority, often boasting about violence in a way that many dismissed as empty talk. That dismissal would later prove deadly. Pazuzu settled in Clemens, North Carolina, where he lived in a deteriorating house on Nob Hill Drive. The house quickly became known locally as a party house. It was loud, chaotic, and filled with people coming and going at all hours. Inside, the conditions were horrific. Trash piled up everywhere. Animal remains were left inside and outside the home. Graffiti covered the walls. There were periods without electricity or running water, and the smell alone made the house notorious in the neighborhood. Despite this, people kept coming. Young adults, runaways, drug users, and people with unstable lives were drawn to the house. Pazuzu offered drugs, alcohol, and a place to stay with no rules. For many, it felt like freedom, but in reality, it was a trap. Pazuzu used the party environment to attract people who were already vulnerable, then slowly asserted psychological control over them. Witnesses later described him as manipulative and intimidating. He used fear, weapons, and violent threats to dominate those around him. He bragged about killing animals and talked openly about murder. Some people thought he was joking. Others were too afraid to challenge him. The constant flow of people in and out of the house helped mask the danger. When someone disappeared, it didn't immediately raise suspicion. That lifestyle created the perfect cover. Two men who became part of this environment were Joshua Frederick Wetzler and Tommy Dean Welch. Both had spent time at the house and were known within Pazuzu's social circle. Neither disappearance immediately triggered a major investigation. They were adults living unstable lives, and their absence did not set off alarms right away. In July 2009, Joshua Frederick Wetzler was killed at the Clemens house. According to court records, Pazuzu shot him during an altercation. Instead of reporting the death, Pazuzu and his girlfriend Amber Birch buried Wetzler's body in a shallow grave behind the house. The crime went unnoticed for years. Just months later, in October 2009, Tommy Dean Welch was also killed. This time, Amber Birch pulled the trigger, shooting Welch, with Pazuzu helping to dispose of the body. Welch was buried on the same property. Once again, no immediate report was made. No urgent search followed. The bodies remained hidden in plain sight. For years, neighbors complained about the house. They reported drug use, disturbing behavior, and the constant presence of strangers. Law enforcement visited the property multiple times over unrelated complaints. Pazuzu was known to police. He was arrested on minor charges over the years, including assault and drug-related offenses. But nothing led investigators to the backyard where two men were buried. This went on until 2014, when authorities were investigating Pazuzu and Amber Birch for unrelated crimes involving stolen property and fraud. During that investigation, law enforcement searched the Nob Hill Drive property. What they discovered finally exposed what had been happening all along. Human remains were found buried in shallow graves behind the house. The remains were identified as Joshua Frederick Wetzler and Tommy Dean Welch. Ballistic evidence, witness testimony, and confessions confirmed the murders. The investigation revealed that Pazuzu and Amber Birch had worked together to conceal the crimes, relying on the chaotic nature of the house and the vulnerability of the people around them to avoid detection. The case drew national attention. Media outlets focused on Pazuzu's bizarre appearance, his satanic identity, and the shocking neglect that allowed the murders to remain hidden for so long. But beneath the sensational elements was a much darker reality. This was not just a story about a strange individual. It was a story about systemic failure and treated mental illness, and how easily vulnerable people can be exploited. In 2015, Pazuzu Algarad was formally charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder. Amber Birch was also charged for her role in the killings. The case never reached trial for Pazuzu. While in custody, he died in 2015 before facing a jury. His death meant there would be no verdict, no public testimony, and no full accounting of his crimes in court. Amber Birch's case continued. In 2019, she pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and accessory charges. She was sentenced to between 30 and 40 years in prison. A third individual, Crystal Nicole Matlock, was charged for helping bury one of the bodies and later pleaded guilty as well. The Nob Hill Drive house was eventually demolished. What once stood as a hub of chaos, fear, and neglect was finally erased. But the legacy of the case remains. Pazuzu Algarad's story is not just about murder. It is about how danger can exist openly when warning signs are ignored. He did not hide who he was. He did not pretend to be normal. He showed people exactly what he believed and how he lived. And yet, for years, nothing stopped him. The party house, the chaos, the filth, and the constant movement of people created an environment where violence could blend into the background. The victims were not strangers. They were people pulled into a world that offered temporary escape, but delivered permanent consequences. This case is a reminder that danger does not always come disguised as respectability. Sometimes it looks loud, chaotic, and openly disturbing. Ignoring it does not make it harmless. It makes it lethal. If you've made it to the end of this story, thank you for watching. If you found this video informative or eye-opening, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more in-depth true crime stories. Your support helps keep these stories told and ensures the victims are not forgotten.